Sitting for prolonged periods of time has a detrimental effect on our overall health. As a photographer, as a videographer, filmmaker, we spend lots of time sitting while we're editing photos or editing video. Our posture tends to not be the best. We tend to get hunched over, our shoulders are rounded, and our low back even caves in, and that causes a whole host of other issues that I haven't even talked about. Recently, I felt some of those effects. I woke up one morning with some pain here at my sternum and in my back, and this was a familiar pain. It was rib pain. Other people might describe it as your rib is out. I thought to myself, well, what did I do? What did I do recently? I had spent at least 8 hours editing previously. That's when I made the connection that this is probably linked to this, because I've been through this before and noticed the next day maybe I'm stiff, maybe I'm tight in certain areas. That's what I want to talk about today, is a routine that I built up. I have 7 different exercises focusing on upper body. These exercises are, first, a warm-up. I love a heating pad, especially in times of pain. From there, we go to a foam roller, massage gun, first rib mobilization, then a pec stretch. From here, we move to strengthening, double arm rows, and YTWs. These are the 7 exercises that I'm going to be talking about today. They are meant to be preventative in nature. However, you can also use these as a routine to get you out of pain, provide some relief, and even potentially reverse some of the effects of poor posture. This group of exercises is meant to target and counteract the effects of sitting for long durations, for long periods of time. This is not meant to be medical advice. This is just me sharing my personal experience in the hopes that it might help others. As always, if you have pain, please go seek out a medical professional first. See a licensed physician, medical doctor, or a licensed physical therapist. For background's sake, I was an athlete all the way up until college. I graduated with a degree in anatomy and physiology. I then worked at a physical therapy clinic, an outpatient orthopedic clinic, where we saw populations from 5 years old all the way to 95 years old with athletes in between. My intent here is to just share my experience and my knowledge that I've gained throughout all of that to ultimately counteract sitting, specifically for people like me, photographers and filmmakers who spend so much time at a computer. Let's finally get into the details of these exercises. First thing that I like to do, if I'm feeling really stiff, or if I'm having any sort of back pain or even rib pain, I will jump on a heating pad. The one that I have is one that we've bought from Amazon. I'll link one comparable in the description of this video, but I turn it on low and I sit on that for maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes at the most. This one in particular has a timer where it will shut off. My only caution is to wear a piece of clothing in between. Don't put it on bare skin. We don't want anybody getting any type of burns or anything like that. You can switch things like the heating pad with a 10-minute run, with a 20-minute cycle. It might just be taking a walk around the block, and that is you getting your muscles warm instead of using a heating pad. Honestly, sometimes this in and of itself will help you feel just so much better. From there, I will move to my foam roller, and we have 2 of them in our home. I absolutely love a foam roller. It was integral in a lot of things that we did, sports related and physical therapy, and into just daily life here. If I'm not in pain, the foam roller is where I will start at. You'll see that I'm using the foam roller in my thoracic spines, and this is an area that is stiff in a lot of people. Having good mobility in your thoracic spine can help with so many different issues, whether they're shoulder related, neck related. Because your spine is all interconnected, it's important that it moves well. And so starting with the foam roller, I typically do 3 to 5 minutes of that, just kind of rolling in that area. You'll get some pops in there potentially, and that's nothing to be afraid of. That is essentially gas leaving those joints in between the bones and is completely normal. You may even feel better after that. From here, I will then go to potentially using the massage gun. I bought a relatively cheap one. I believe it was $100 on Amazon. I'll go ahead and link one in the description. With the massage gun, I will use it really all over any area that I feel like needs a little bit of love. In this particular instance, I really love using the massage gun on my upper traps. So up here, you will hit your upper traps, and then deeper within that, you'll hit your levator muscles, which attach up to the base of your skull. And just using that kind of percussion, that percussive movement of the massage gun to potentially loosen up those tissues and give a little bit of tissue work there may provide a little bit more focus, a little bit more specific type of tissue work than the foam roller would. At this point in my routine, then I will move to a very, very specific. So I've kind of gone from non-specific to even more specific and then really specific. And you see me taking my hand and pushing down on an area in my upper traps. And what I'm doing is I found kind of this flat, solid bone that is there, and that is your first rib. And so I find that, and then I just, from side to side, I will bring my ear down to my shoulder and then go the opposite way. And I'll do this very gently. You may notice that it feels tight and you feel some pulling there. You may even get a release doing this. This one I would recommend be gentle at first. The reason that I do this is because often for me, my first rib will become elevated. And whether that is because I'm sleeping like this or because I'm just hunched over like this rather than in a good posture, for whatever the reason may be, it might become a little bit elevated. And so that really helps to kind of potentially release that. This particular exercise that I will do with the overpressure, I will do maybe 10 times each side. Moving on to the pec stretch, you have two pec muscles here in your chest. You have your pec major, which attaches in your shoulder and goes to your sternum. And then you have pec minor, which kind of runs down and attaches to your ribs. The pec stretch can stretch both of these. You'll see me move to a doorway and I'll put my right arm or left arm up at 90 degrees to my body. And then I will press that against the door frame and then slowly lean forward. My feet are in kind of like a lunge position to make sure that you have a stable base. You'll feel some stretching and some pulling in the front of your chest. That is good. Pain is not good. If you're feeling any type of pain, back off. And if you're still feeling pain, then go ahead and skip this one. But stretching, pulling is what we're aiming for here. We're gonna do this stretch for a minute on each side. I like to do it 2 times. The reason that a pec stretch is involved in this is because we've talked about rounded shoulders. We've talked about kind of that upper back thoracic kyphosis, which is a fancy word for just meaning that you're hunched over. And in that position, the length, the muscle is in a shortened position. They get used to that position and then they stay there and then they get tight chronically. So when you want to come out of that position and be up nice and tall, then they might restrict you from doing that. And so to stretch them is a way to kind of lengthen them and bring your posture back to where it should be. A couple of keys for this: we want your shoulders to be square, we want your hips to be square, so be cognizant of that. You can also vary this particular stretch in moving your elbow or your arm higher up so that it is greater than 90 degrees from your body, or you can bring it down so that it is less than 90 degrees from your body. And that can alter the portion of your chest that you are feeling. Vary this up, see how it feels. Again, we don't want any pain. Pulling, stretching sensation is good, but pain, like sharp pains, are not good. From this point now, I've loosened up a ton and I'm probably feeling really good. And so now I may want to go into strengthening. And you'll see me doing this with the bands. What I'm doing is called rows, and I'm just bringing my elbows back and pinching those shoulder blades together. I'm not pinching them up, I'm pinching them back and down. And so I'm trying to now strengthen the opposite muscles that will help keep me upright and keep my chest open and standing or sitting nice and tall. So you can either do this at home with bands, or you can go to the gym. For at home, you just buy bands, I'll link it in the description, along with a strap with a little bit of rubber on the end to where you can slip it in between a door, close the door, and now you have an anchor point that is there where you can pull the bands from. As far as rep ranges, I would shoot for anywhere between 2 to 3 sets of 20. If you choose to do this exercise at the gym, you could probably drop the rep range between anywhere between 2 to 3 sets of 10 or 15. The next exercise is one that I absolutely love, and I call this YTWs. And so I'm using a bench here. You can also do this laying flat on the ground, maybe on a yoga mat or on some carpet. This particular exercise is working on a few different things. With Ys, you are working on the low trap muscles that are really often neglected and very critical in keeping your shoulders back and not letting those shoulders round and go forward. With the T movement, you are really working on those rhomboids and those mid traps that also help to provide stability and bring your shoulders back in a better position. And finally, with the Ws, you're working on the external rotators of your rotator cuff that help to really stabilize your shoulder. And again, just bring that shoulder blade and shoulder itself back in a more neutral position. This particular exercise is one where if you haven't done it ever, I would start with no weight. I would start with no weight and try the exercise out. You're looking for low reps. I typically do 5 of each. So 5 Ys, 5 Ts, and then also 5 Ws, and that'll be 1 set. And I'll do this 3 times. If you're feeling like that is too much, do 2 sets and work your way up to 3 sets. If you're feeling like it's easy, then you can slowly start to add weight, 2.5 pounds in either hand, maybe 5 pounds in either hand. Because you're working on muscles that are not huge muscle groups, the weight does not need to be heavy at all for you to feel like you're working them out. A tip with this particular exercise is you want to keep thumbs up rather than keeping them either parallel to the ground or pointed down to the ground. The reason to keep your thumbs up in this exercise is because it is a more neutral position for your shoulder. And when you turn your thumbs down, you potentially impinge the muscles that run through your shoulder. And it can irritate those muscles and cause pain in there and cause impingement. And so we wanna avoid that. Keep your thumbs up. It's a much safer position and you'll be good. The overall concept with these exercises is to first be able to loosen up the muscles via stretching, via heat, and also loosen up those structures, the bones that support those muscles, and to allow them to move better. A lot of the pain that we feel, stiffness, is related to that. So things like stretching, things like the heating pad can help that immensely. And after that is done, that's not where we stop. Once we've increased our mobility and we're moving a little bit better, is to then support that mobility with strength and stability. This is the overarching concept of stretching muscles that may have become shortened via prolonged periods of sitting, and then strengthening the opposite muscles to provide stability in those positions. My name is David J. Orozco, and this is The Authentic Photographer. And this is all about creating a life that you love through creativity, through the tools that we get and the skills that we learn through creativity, but also navigating that journey mindfully. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.